bitches and stuff. Today's class 2, is on unpacking crazy. Oof. So we got a topic today. So we're going to be doing an opening exercise. We're going to be talking about crazy as a construct. We're going to be talking about crazy as a weapon. We're going to be talking about crazy as gifts. We're going to be talking about breaks and imbalances, about integrative healing, and about language. It's right there for you. And then we're going to do some poetry. And then we're going to meditate. But first, we're going to take a hike down Parsons Trail. Okay, let's go. I just remembered that this is this way, Sam. Well, it is what it is, isn't it? All right. I'm gonna keep going like this for now. To have some kind of uniformity, I guess? No, I'll go ahead and switch it now. I just, while I'm hiking, I like to be, whatever. It's my fucking video. I can do whatever the fuck I want. That's hilarious, Sam. Okay. We are going to start with an opening. I thought of a new word in the car on the way over here. Enercize. Energy exercise. We're going to start with an Enercize. All right. So I want you to think of a time where you shared something, a belief, a truth, an experience, and in return, probably as a joke, someone said that was crazy, and you may have even felt the lightheartedness of that joke, but then dismissed what you said deeper down, or invalidated it. I'm guiding too much into this part. That's your job. Okay. So think of a time when you shared something and it was returned with crazy. Okay. Or maybe someone didn't say it, but its implication hung in the air. You could feel it. And or think of a time when you were going to share something, but the fear of being called crazy blocked it before it even left your throat. All right, so compounding last week's work of opening the heart, try to open your heart right now to whatever vulnerability, pain, fear, guilt, shame might be lingering out of these experiences that we have on the reg. Really, I mean, really, we could be thinking about something very simple, something in a daily exchange. It doesn't have to be a moment that we had classified as traumatic, or as, oh, that just blocked my throat chakra, or, oh, now I'm questioning my intuitive gut, right? Like, we might not have realized that in the moment, but that is because rarely do we embody those levels of awareness with us all the time, especially as we're growing, right? And these things can happen really young, right? When we don't necessarily have that awareness developed to the point of where we can shut that shit out, right? So whether it's like you remember this big moment, or you just think about yesterday when someone was like, oh, that crazy bitch, right? Or maybe like, you know, someone called someone else crazy, referring to an emotion or an activity or something that you felt or done. And so now you aren't even gonna fucking share it because that person just called that other bitch crazy, right? There's a gendered component, but we're not gonna go too deep into that today. Yeah. Right? So hold that experience and try not to judge it. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge the other person, right? Like, just hold it. Just hold it for a minute. Hold it in your heart. Hold it wherever it's coming up. And in fact, we're gonna do like a little map of the body right now, okay? So are you feeling it, maybe experiencing it? First, locate it in your body, and then try to describe the feeling of what's going on. So I'll lead you through some of the mapping in my body, right? Thinking about my experiences. I feel it in four places, three really strongly. One, my heart, right? Because we can experience that as pain, and that affects our love center and our self-love, right? So like, it definitely affects this region for me. It affects my throat chakra in a big way, in a big fucking way, right? Or I should say it has affected, right? Because like, we're growing out of, right? We're healing. So we can use language to reflect that. So has affected my throat chakra in a really, well, we'll describe the pain in a minute, or the type rather. And then my gut, I feel it in my gut for sure. And then a little bit in my third eye, right here. So now describing, I would say the term that runs through all of those energy centers, is applicable to all those energy centers in this context, is constricted. Feels constricted. Feels like truth has to work harder to come up and down. Feels constricted. It feels closed, blocked. It has felt, especially in the past, and continues, right? Like, it's a process. And so just hold that wherever you, and maybe it's really different for you. Maybe it's stabbing pain. Maybe it's whatever it is. It's not my job to figure it out. Whatever it is, hold that. Hold that. And we're just gonna sit here for a minute with that pain. We're not gonna judge it. We're just gonna allow it to be. We're gonna send it some love. Before I go into part 2, I'm gonna grab my jacket because it's a little bit chilly. Okay. Oh, let me fix that exposure. All right. So we are going to start with crazy as a construct. So what I mean when I say construct is that it is not, crazy does not have one infallible, inherent meaning. And I don't say definition, I say meaning. It is rather defined socioculturally, that is time and space bound, right? Like, it is time bound by what is normal and not normal, and understood and not understood by the culture articulating in it in that particular moment in time and space. These are conditions that are dynamic. It's not one or the other. So construct, then, thinking about it doesn't have an inherent meaning, and yet it definitely has weight to it, and a definition that is given to it, and created by the society that's employing it, that's mobilizing the term. you know, the way that we define it reflects the knowledge that the society has and understands and integrates and practices. We live in a very spiritually dry space-time right now here in America in 2020. It's developing, right? We know that. We can feel that shit. But we've been going through this very spiritually dry period. When we remove the language and the mechanisms and the depth of knowledge and tools that exploring spirituality has to offer, then we remove this entirely complex realm of knowledge from which we're drawing, and we're just kind of here defining by this, by these material worlds. We also live in a very emotionally dry time, right? And so, the exposure. There we go. And so we see crazy applied to things that are emotional, right? In particular to women who are emotional, who express and receive emotion, emotional intelligence. And of course those things can be out of balance, right? But we see it applied in that realm. We see it applied to people who have ideas and thoughts that are outside of the current framework, understanding, capacity of our collective knowledge, or things that we've decided are true. And when we remove all these other mechanisms of intelligence, emotions, spirituality, imagination, higher mind thinking, then not only that, do we remove that as valid and valuable processes and progress and content for human growth and experience, but not only do we remove it, but then we demonize it by calling it crazy. So if the information or whatever feeling or experience or discovery or truth that we have isn't in alignment with the current process that's being mobilized and understood by society, we're going to use that term for now because it is helpful without getting into more specifics, or it's outside of the content of what we consider normalcy, right, then that starts to shut us off from ourselves. And so now we're getting into crazy as weaponry, right? When we tell someone that they're crazy, and then as a result, we start blocking off to our own inner truths, and we start blocking off to our gut and our intuition, and because maybe we're having experiences, like for example, we're going to get into crazy as gifts right now. These all kind of go together, right? Precognition, clairsentience, we talked about that last week, mediumship, right? Just because other people and our society in general doesn't understand that shit doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And doesn't mean that those gifts are, right, like we start to shut down our own gifts out of fear that people will call it crazy, or that we'll think ourselves crazy, which is, you know, what drives us crazy. That's what splits our psyche and our spirit. And if we're talking about crazy as breakage, as imbalance, as inability to integrate, as believing in something that is contradictory to truth, right? Like if we want to give crazy that definition, then there are lots of ways that we are all practicing crazy. And isn't it funny? Right? Like you see it in pop culture reflected all the time in great fucking like music and shit. Like right now I'm really jamming out to AK the Savior, Melting Amethyst. Maybe I'm crazy. Right? Like artists do that all the time. Right? Like trying to get us to like realize that these lines right? Like just because other people don't understand multidimensionality does not remove your experience from multidimensionality. Or just because other people don't understand how to listen, to the earth, to ourselves. And right, and that's not a judgment for those people, right? That's an indication that if you're not listening, that's pain and that's karma to heal. That is separation from your heart. That is separation from your gut, from your intuition, from your instincts. That is separation from spirit and your relationship with spirit. That is every person's individual journey to heal. And so there is not judgment in people who mobilize that term. And we do it to ourselves too. So like if we exercise judgment for the person who's doing that, we're also judging ourselves, because I know I'm guilty of it in the past, right? And like it's this constant check process, right? And so like being able to not judge that allows me to not judge myself, which then allows me to heal deeper, right? So it's not a helpful part of the process, or we each have our own fucking processes, so whatever. But like for me, for sure, this is applicable for everyone. It's not just me. Judgment slows our asses down. Because then we judge ourselves. All right. So, let me take a look at my board here. Without it falling out of the tree branch. There we go. Okay. Opening exercise. Crazy as construct. Crazy as a weapon. I always like to say, crazy is the way to burn the modern witch. Crazy as a weapon. Witches wake up, bitches. Crazy as gifts, right? Like clairsentience and precognition, right? Like we're gonna talk about time and bilinearity and presence and astral projection and shit like that, right? Which enables and empowers precognition. And I'm not gonna apologize for having gifts, and I'm certainly not gonna take other people's baggage away just because they don't understand it. So craziest gifts, like reclaim your fucking gifts, reclaim your fucking power, reclaim your memory, reclaim your truth, reclaim your strength, reclaim your shit, and drop that crazy nonsense. Okay.
So here's what's up. I knew even as I was making my little syllabus for myself that this was too much information for 25 minutes and I needed to just stick with the first 3 topics. But there was just that part of me that was like, bitch, this is important. I must write about it or I'm gonna die. Because that's how I go crazy. That's how my psyche spirit splits if I don't honor my artistic output and my intellectual output and my spiritual output. It's not just about reception. So I got time for this. Anyway, so I am going to go ahead and let those last 2 topics linger. Don't worry, there will be writing about it, and I will consider posting the rest of the information from this class in a separate video. In fact, if you'd like that, let me know. Otherwise, you'll see it written about when I'm finished with my shit. You can wait. Anyway, so that's what's up here. Now I'm just going to take you straight to the poetry and meditation because we ain't hopping out on that shit.
All right, let's do some poetry. Crazy as gallows and fires, white-hooded, wither-headed winter sires, crazy as geo-god density, wade, silver-weighted, whisper-wedded riders, crazy as neo-propensity, warm waters wonder under your desires. Okay, now let's get you set up by some water. Speaking of desires. And water. However, these waters are very cold. Enjoy. whatever.
Oh my God, you literally can't hear a word that I say after that last line. If you could even hear that, I tend to want to whisper after I meditate. I just have to remember that I am still speaking on camera. Okay, I'll get better at that. In any case, happy whatever, and I'll see you next time.